The whistle blew, sharp as a gunshot, and the stadium lights flickered like dying stars over Levi's Stadium, plunging us into chaos as the earthquake hit. I grabbed for the goalpost, my fingers slipping on the cold metal, while screams echoed from the stands, 30,000 voices turning to terror in an instant. Malachi's voice cut through it all, steady as the San Andreas fault about to crack us open. "Hold on, brothers. We're not breaking today. It was supposed to be our night." Stanford's undefeated Cardinals, chasing a Rose Bowl berth in that crisp November chill of Palo Alto, California. I was Julian Reyes, the wide receiver everyone called Ghost, for how I'd vanish into the defense and reappear with the ball in my hands. At 22, I'd bled red and white since freshman orientation, dreaming of this game against our rivals, the USC Trojans. But Malachi, he was the glue, the quiet kid from Oakland who'd walked on as a sophomore quarterback nobody scouted. 5'11", wiry build, skin like polished mahogany, with eyes that held the weight of every foster home he'd bounced through. He wasn't flashy, no Heisman hype, no nil deals lighting up his feed. Just a guy who showed up early, taped ankles meticulously, and led huddles like he was born reciting the Gettysburg Address. We'd met in the weight room 2 years back, spotting each other on bench presses that turned into late-night talks about everything and nothing. "You ever feel like you're playing for ghosts, Jules?" he'd asked once, wiping sweat from his brow, his voice low enough that the clang of iron drowned it out. I knew what he meant, the absent dads, the neighborhoods that chewed you up. But there was more under those words, a current pulling us closer than teammates should get. Stolen glances in the locker room, brushes of knuckles that lingered too long. In the hypermacho world of college ball, where no homo was still locker room gospel, we danced around it. Until that night when the earth decided to rip the veil. The quake lasted 90 seconds, but it felt eternal. The Jumbotron crashed down in a shower of sparks, goalposts swayed like palm trees in a hurricane, and the Bay Area's faithful bolted for exits that jammed like bad dreams. I hit the turf hard, turf burning my palms, tasting blood from a split lip. Around me, bodies tumbled. Linemen like fallen oaks, cheerleaders clinging to rails. Coach Harlan bellowed orders from the sidelines, his megaphone fritzing out mid-sentence. But Malachi, he was already up, hauling Darius, our center, to his feet. "Julian, over here." His shout pulled me through the panic, and I scrambled to him, our shoulders slamming together in a tackle that felt like home. We formed a chain, Malachi at the front, me right behind, then the rest of the O-line linking arms like a human barricade. The ground bucked again, aftershocks rattling the bleachers overhead. Cracks spiderwebbed the field, swallowing chunks of astroturf. "Stay low. Move toward the tunnel," Malachi yelled, his breath ragged but commanding. I'd seen him sling passes into triple coverage, read blitzes like tea leaves. But this was raw leadership, the kind that doesn't come from playbooks. We inched forward, a ragged platoon of gridiron warriors turned survivors, dodging falling debris. A light rig toppled nearby, exploding in a fireball that singed the air. I shoved Tyler, our freshman kicker, out of the way, taking the heat on my arm, blisters rising like war paint. In the tunnel's dim safety, the real quake hit. Not the Earth's, but the one ripping through our brotherhood. Phones buzzed back to life, texts flooding in, evacuations, collapsed overpasses on 101, the Bay Bridge swaying like a drunk. But worse were the whispers. Coach Harlan, red-faced and pacing, clutched his cell like a grenade. "It's bad, boys. Real bad. The AD's on the line. Scandals blowing up." Turns out, the old man had been cooking the books. Fake recruits, ghost nil money funneled to boosters with sticky fingers. SA investigators had been circling for months. But the quake cracked the dam. Leaked emails, photos of shady meetings, our program's dirty laundry spilling out faster than the aftershocks. I locked eyes with Malachi across the huddle. His face was a mask, but I saw the fracture lines, the betrayal etching deeper than any sack. Harlan had been his mentor, the guy who'd pulled him from juvie scraps and into Stanford's fold. Family, Harlan always preached. Now, poison. Teammates murmured, shock turning to rage. Darius punched a locker, denting metal. We grind for this? For his lies. Tyler, barely 18, looked like he might puke. Malachi stepped up, silencing the din with a raised hand. Listen, the ground's still shaking, but that's not what's gonna break us. His voice carried that Oakland grit, vowels stretched like taffy, the kind that made you believe in comebacks. Coach, he messed up, bad, but we're the ones who play clean. We've got fans out there scared shitless, families waiting in dorms that might not stand. This ain't about a whistle or a trophy anymore. It's about us holding the line. He was ordinary Malachi until he wasn't. That night, as sirens wailed and news choppers thumped overhead, he rallied us not for the scoreboard, but for something deeper. We fanned out. Me and him coordinating with campus PD, directing stragglers from the stands. Darius and the D-line cleared paths through rubble-strewn lots, hauling an elderly fan with a twisted ankle to safety. Tyler, voice cracking, called parents on borrowed phones, lying smooth about how we were all golden. Hours blurred, flashlights cutting fog, hands linking strangers into chains. By dawn, the Quakes' toll tallied. 5 dead in the stands, dozens injured. Our stadium a war zone of twisted steel. But the real storm brewed in the locker room post-evac. Harlan was gone. Suspended on the spot, his office raided while we taped ice packs to bruises. Whispers turned to accusations. Who knew? Who covered? Eyes fell on Beckett, our backup QB, the golden boy from Texas with daddy's oil money. I caught him and Harlan huddled too close, too often. Betrayal's bitter taste hit me first. Beckett, who'd been my wingman, slapping backs after wins, now exposed as the leak's source. Not out of righteousness, but spite. He'd overheard Malachi confronting Harlan weeks back about keeping things straight for the team's sake. Beckett twisted it, fed it to a blogger for a payout, thinking it'd crown him starter. I cornered him by the showers, steam rising like accusations. You sold us out, Beck? For what? A shot at QB1. My fist clenched, knuckles white. He smirked, that all-American jaw set. Y'all act like saints. Mal's been playing favorites forever. You think I didn't see you too? Sneaking looks like it's some rom-com. The words landed like a blindside hit. My stomach dropped. Our secret, the one we'd guarded fiercer than any playbook, flung out casual as trash talk. Malachi burst in then, towel slung low, eyes blazing. Enough! He planted himself between us, chest heaving. Beckett laughed, bitter.
True Tours, Capítulo.
Your boy's got a crush, and you? You're too busy playing house to lead. The room froze. Guys averting eyes. The air thick with unspoken judgments. Football's code. Tough, straight, unbreakable. Anything else? Fracture. That was the gut punch, deeper than the quake. Malachi's face crumpled for a split second, vulnerability raw as an open wound, before stealing. He turned to the team, voice steady. Beckett's right about one thing, we've got cracks. But not the kind he thinks. He glanced at me, a look that said we'll talk later, heavy with the unsaid. I've been carrying this weight, loving someone on this team, hiding it because I thought it'd divide us. Julian. It's him. Gasps rippled, but Malachi pressed on, unyielding. And yeah, it scares the hell out of me. But if we're gonna survive this, quakes, scandals, all of it, we face it head on. No more shadows. The room hung silent. Then Darius nodded slow. We got your back, Cap. Others murmured agreement, tentative but real. Beckett slunk out, tail between legs, his betrayal sealed. In that moment, Malachi wasn't just ordinary. He was seismic, shifting the fault lines of who we were. We didn't play the Trojans that night. League postponed the season. Investigations loomed like storm clouds. Stanford suspended Harlan. Beckett transferred out amid whispers. The NCAA probe dragged, headlines screaming Cardinal collapse. But Malachi led us through the fallout. Public service announcements on Quake Prep, fundraisers for victims' families. He testified clean, pulling records that cleared most of us. Me? I stood by him, our hands finally linking in private. Tentative kisses in his off-campus apartment. Tasting salt from tears we didn't hide anymore. It wasn't fairy tale easy. Hecklers at practice, scouts ghosting my draft stock, parents back home in Fresno side-eyeing calls. You sure about this boy, Mijo? Mom asked, voice laced with that immigrant worry. Don't rock the boat. Malachi's foster scars ran deep. Trust was a fumble he chased but feared dropping. Nights, we'd lie on his futon. Stadium roar fading to crickets outside, tracing tattoos like maps to safer ground. I thought leading meant being unbreakable, he'd whisper, fingers in my hair. But you make me want to bend, Jules. Feel it all. The crisis peaked at the hearing, December, wood-paneled room in Indianapolis, air stale as old cleats. Malachi took the stand, recounting Harlan's grooming, Beckett's grudge, our Quake night stand. Football taught me resilience, he said, eyes locking on the panel. But family? That's what we built under the lights. Don't tear it down for one man's greed. His words hung, humanistic plea wrapped in American grit, the underdog's creed. They bought it. Slaps on the wrist for the program, full exoneration for us players. Season salvaged, partial bowl eligible. We played in the Sun Bowl, El Paso sun baking the field like absolution. Malachi slung a game winner, me hauling it in for the score, arms wrapping him post-touchdown, no cameras catching the extra squeeze. Crowd roared, but our victory was quieter. A future drafted together, him to the Niners, me to the Rams. Close enough for weekends, far enough for growth. Looking back, that ordinary kid from the Bay didn't just lead us through the feared crisis. He cracked us open, let the light in. Betrayal scarred, sure, Harlan's shadow lingers. Beckett's a ghost we outran. But love? It grounded us when the earth shook. In America's heartland of dreams and fractures, Malachi taught me, heroes aren't born flawless. They're forged in the aftershocks, holding on when everything else lets go.